Hello, everyone. This is Warhawk Beyond 2040, and welcome to another edition of the Peacemaker Season 1 review series. And today we are going to be talking about Episode 5, Monkey Dory, and we are joined once again by the Holiday Christopher Mace and Rex DeBoss 11. Guys, how are you doing? And great to have you back here.
Doing okay. Like I said, finally a long week of work done and over with, so it's time to talk about some Peacemaker.
Absolutely. Rex DeBoss, how are you doing over there?
Hey guys, how's it going? Let's talk about Peacemaker episode 5.
So today's episode is called Monkey Dory, and this pretty much continued on from the way episode 4 ended, with Mern being revealed as one of the butterflies. I thought this episode was really good and a fantastic follow-up to the end of episode 4. So we're going to start with you first, Holiday. What did you think of episode 5?
Oh man, this is interesting because now you're starting to see now more and more what they're trying to do by, going after the butterflies food source at the warehouse and or the factory. And it's interesting, the fight scenes there were interesting. Some of the jokes they had about Vigilante wanting to use a chainsaw and like kind of foreshadowing things. And the jokes about, Peacemaker keeps messing with John because he doesn't think he's really relevant to the team. And John actually shows that he proves his worth to the team a little bit in this episode. And then the shocking ending to the episode was very interesting, which sets up for the next episode. So I thought they continuing the story at a good pace. And I mean, the shocking reveal in episode 4 and then another shocking moment in episode 5 just keeps it going.
Definitely. Rex DeBoss, what did you feel of this episode?
I'll try and speak a bit slower because I've actually just been laughing off. I've actually just been laughing behind the scenes because of something that happened before we started recording. However, I think this episode was really good. And to be honest, this is me speaking from my own perspective. I knew just between the last 5 minutes of episode 4 and the first, say, 10 minutes of episode 5, you get that feeling when you just know something is good. It's like that, sometimes in a movie where you know that the next 45 minutes of this movie, they're going to have to really mess this up royally for this to actually end up being bad. And I got that feeling here. Like I said in the previous review, it left me salivating at the end of the previous episode. And because I was able to immediately go in binge style into this episode, it did not disappoint. And personally myself, I have to say this, it was more to do with the fact that, and I will say this now, we mentioned some things in the previous review that I now have thinking about it now actually happened in this episode, which is the reveal of some people finding out that Mern is what he is, etc. That actually happened in this episode, not in the previous episode. So, but not that anyone will be hyper focused on that because all these episodes have been out for quite a while. But overall, yeah, I enjoyed this. This was the moment that I knew this has got a future. Not just I want to watch it. I knew that regardless if I like this series or not, this is going to be overwhelmingly liked. I'm sure about that.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that 100%. As you say, like usually with shows, first episode's all right, but the next couple of episodes, it usually always goes off the cliff, as we talked about in a couple of reviews back, that the show usually starts to go off the cliff round about episode 3 or 4. But once we got past episode 3 and 4, just like you guys, I was like, yeah, I'm definitely on board with this and I'm going to see this to the end because it was that good. And the same with this episode. We learned more about how the butterflies inhabit human hosts. I thought that was quite good. And the whole review of Mern being revealed as one of the butterflies was an awesome twist because we talked about this in the last review that we thought that possibly Mern might be working with the butterflies. We just didn't know that he was actually one of them. So yeah, that twist at the end was definitely got me fully on board with this show. And
it
Yeah,
genuinely turned a little bit like horror film, like
Yeah.
thriller horror film at the end. I actually was a little bit like, when the reveal with what's going on with Myrn happened at the end, I was actually a little bit like concerned. Like, what's he going to do? What exactly is he going to do here? Because it's not something that I'd been like, maybe I'd not had long enough, because I watched the episodes straight away after each other. I'd not had long enough to actually think in my mind, well, what is he going to do if he gets found out? I'd probably already come to the conclusion that it was going to drag on a little bit. Like most series, they drag on, don't they? You get the reveal as the audience, and then 6 or 7 episodes later, everybody else or the main character gets revealed about what's going on. But looking back now and having said that, I'm glad that they did kind of speed things up here, because this episode was so, for me, I was so highly anticipating this episode in the small amount of time between where I watched the 2 episodes. I was so excited to go into this episode that I could have just watched this with, rose tinted glasses, which I obviously haven't watched it with rose tinted glasses, seeing as I've gone back and watched that episode twice since. But at the same time, it's very easy to enjoy one episode and then go into the next episode and just not see what the episode is for what it really is. But yeah, I think personally myself, I think that they produced this, and once again, I'm going to again say thank all of the HBO production staff, James Gunn, for making a DC television series that just seems to work.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that. Holiday, you in agreement with that?
Oh, definitely. Like I said, this is different than what you see on the CW network. This is pretty much like, it's like what they're using the same similar formula. Like I said, you've seen James Gunn, you've seen him direct Marvel movies, and now you're seeing what he did with the Suicide Squad and doing with this series. And you could tell it has his handprints all over with how he's doing this series. It's something completely different than you don't normally see with other DC related series that you've ever seen before. It's something completely different. And I think this so far, as we get into episode 5, it's done a really good job of storytelling, and that's the important thing. You can have all these special effects and do all this crazy stuff, but if you don't have
pay-per-view, this is pay-per-view compared to, sorry to cut you off, but this is pay-per-view compared to television. Like,
Yes.
This is the pay-per-view.
A good storytelling
compared to CW's weekly episodic TV. Like, if you guys, with the wrestling reference, again, there's always going to be wrestling references from me. But it's almost like the CW shows are what you would get on a weekly episodic TV, that isn't necessarily building to anything. Then you get a little bit of build here to certain things. This is like the pay-per-view, isn't it? This is like just doing every week as a pay-per-view.
Yes. Every week's an event, as you say. So it's like you can't miss this. Like if you missed one episode, you're like, oh man, I'm so behind. I've already got to catch up because.
I will ask you this, Holiday. I want to ask you this directly, Holiday, because I know that you like a little bit of humor in these programs. The whole butterfly revealing where they can enter the body scene that happened early in the program in this episode, where it shows how the butterflies can enter the human body. I thought that this scene was hysterical.
Yeah, it was. It's just the way they do it. It's just like, what in the fuck are they doing? Oh, gee.
And I have to ask the question, how does the butterfly get from your back passage to your brain?
Oh.
I have to ask that question. I know that we're dealing with some kind of alien creature, and you have to suspend your disbelief to even think about how this butterfly operates. But then if it goes in your mouth, I can understand how it would get in your brain. And if it goes in your ear, I can understand how it would get in your brain, definitely. Yes. But I can't understand. And also, why did it not suggest that on a female, that the female would obviously have 2 different entrances to, or better yet, did they not mention that? Because then the obvious thing would have come out that the men would have, any man watching would have been like, ooh, can you imagine what that would have been like if it went in the other way? Like, as bad as it sounds, trust me, as bad as it sounds going up the back, I probably wouldn't want it going up the front either.
Oh hell no.
Oh,
Oh.
Holy.
that would have been one of those. No, he wasn't ready. No.
I have to say though, the first time I saw that, you know what you were just talking about with the way the butterfly inhabits the human host, and you see that. I'm not joking. The first time I saw that, I was nearly lost dinner. I just thought, oh, this is so gross. But
Yeah.
I understand it was done for story purposes, but it was still gross initially. The first time you actually see it, it's like, ugh.
How John or whatever his name is has been denying, because I don't like calling him John because I'm John Cena. Like how the tech guy has clearly had his beard more eccentrically dyed this time, but he's still trying to deny that he dyes his beard. Now,
Right.
Even though you can clearly see he does.
in this scene with where they first show this scene just leads to all kinds of places. And like I say, whereas yes, this scene is designed to distract you, it didn't leave me screaming at the end of the scene. Mern's the thing. Like, it didn't leave me screaming that at the end of the scene. Whereas if it didn't have this, I feel like if it didn't have this scene or a scene that was as good as this, I feel like just a random team meeting or whatever would have led me to be screaming into my television, you know, Mern's on their side. Whereas, like I said in the last episode, it was clear that Mern isn't on the butterfly side, but there was still the overwhelming question mark of, well, whose side is he on anyway? Because, and you know, that's something that, you know, going back to the wrestling reference, that's something that is very important in any situation. Whose side are they on? And obviously, at this point, I still didn't fully know. I suspected that Mern couldn't be on the butterfly side because of the way that he'd been sending John Cena and them to these missions. But at the same time, I was still, you know, debating. But this scene overall didn't leave me screaming and asking more questions. It actually entertained me. And then I just moved on with the rest of the episode, which just goes to show once again just how great that the production is for this series.
Production on it is top notch. You agree with that, Holiday?
Oh yeah, I agree with the whole series, how well it's been done and how well it continues to go as we get into this episode. Because, like I said, you got the story continues. Like you said, now we all know watching the show that he's a butterfly, but seems like at the moment nobody else knows at the time he is one, and he's trying to take down the warehouse. And that was a creative scene. All the fighting they had to do and shooting all these butterflies, and that was creative. And he had all the different helmets and stuff. So,
Yeah.
and then what's funny was, you know, the whole parody with Vigilante. I want the chainsaw. I want the chainsaw. I want to use the chainsaw. No, you can't use the chainsaw. And then you see John having to come to the rescue when they're fighting the gorilla. And it's John's the one who used that damn chainsaw on the gorilla to kill the gorilla. And it was just hilarious because it was like they were foreshadowing the chainsaw was going to come into play, and Vigilante's more upset because he didn't use the chainsaw.
And also the bonding, and I'll say this as well, because I've only actually just learned this. I just kind of overlooked this earlier, but John Cena is actually a producer on this series. And that is the reason why I keep highlighting how surprised I am of the portrayal of this character. Because John Cena is actually officially a producer, which means that if he didn't want this character to be portrayed in a certain way, trust me, he would have a say in that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And they wouldn't have given him that production role without that. As far as I'm aware, none of the other actors in this have got a production role, but he's got some kind of production role in this, which means he's obviously having a say in certain things. But to go back to the whole character development situation with John, the tech guy, you know, they tried to have that bonding moment earlier on where they're in the truck and the music starts playing and he knows the band that's playing, and John Cena's like, what, you know who they are? Like, as in, like, there's no way he could know who they are. And he says that he went to a concert, or he says that he did something, he knows, got some kind of history with the group, the band that's playing. And then later when he does the thing, when he goes berserk with the chainsaw and all that, they're all rocking out in the car, aren't they? And you can see, like, none of these characters, whether they're all admitting it, it's all a ball busting thing, yeah. But really deep down, the psychological side of it, once again, that I'm going to draw in is you can tell that none of these have ever had a true friend.
That is very true, actually. That's something that's not really been touched upon much. I mean, we've talked about this a few reviews now about the relationship with Peacemaker and Vigilante, but that is a good point you make there. None of these guys have ever had a true friend, have they? Very good point you make there.
It's the reason why, obviously, Vigilante is so, little brother vibe to the John Cena's Peacemaker character.
Yeah.
So they developed a character. And what I mean by they haven't got a true friend is outside of this world of weird butterflies and covert black ops missions and whatever Peacemaker and Vigilante were doing before Peacemaker got locked up, outside of this costume clad world, these people are not liked. They don't like themselves and nobody else likes them. They don't feel loved. They don't feel like they were raised. They are all individual people and who are lacking, family structure, family unit, and, all are being manipulated and controlled and abused by the same people who they're supposed to love, which is their family. And what you are seeing during this series, and especially in this episode, is this is the age-old misfits in action grow into we are now family. We don't need other family. You know what? Forget about this person who I'm supposed to love or is related to me. They've done too much bad to me. This is my family here. That's what we're getting. Well, that's what I'm getting a whiff of anyway with this.
Yeah, I can definitely tell by that the whole dynamic. It's starting to become more like a family sort of bond. Wouldn't you say, Holiday?
Yeah, you can definitely tell, especially after they kill the butterflies and then they kill the gorilla. You could tell all of them are like more like bonding because you can see even they get a picture with Peacemaker, John, and Vigilante, and us celebrating stuff. We, and John and Peacemaker still bicker, but they're talking about music that they relate to and talk about a concert that John's went to, that Peacemaker is a band that Peacemaker likes, and like I said, I mean, and then like I said, you see different helmets. What they do too, you see the X-ray helmet, so he could tell how many butterflies are in there and whatnot, and
layers. I'm gonna unfortunately just have to just steamroller and say it's the same thing that I said on one of the first reviews. This series has something that a lot of the other series have severely lacked on the CW network, and it's what they started with the Stargirl series. It's layers upon layers upon layers upon layers of different things that people are seeing. So you've got if you watch this, and I promise anyone listening, if you go back and watch this series again, all 8 episodes, you might actually come out of this series with a whole different perspective of it. It's almost like a game that's got different pathways that you can go down, and there's multiple layers of levels and stuff like that, because there's just so many subtle little hints, like what we've seen, the way that the characters spoke to each other in the first episode and the way that they talk to each other now. There's not much difference, but there's subtle differences in the way that they look at each other. Like there's not so much anger and anguish involved in certain people's attitude. People are starting to ease up on different characters. People are starting to hear what other characters are saying more.
I agree. I agree with that, because sometimes when you go back and watch a series, there might be some things that you might have missed out on. I thought, oh, I didn't realize that before.
Layers.
Yeah,
There's
the layers.
Layers. Yes, there is so many layers, and I promise, guys, I will stay quiet for a while after this, but I have to say this: the John Cena or Peacemaker and Hardcore, they haven't rushed it. There's clearly something there between them two. She clearly, obviously, is attracted to him. She made that clear in the first episode, but she wants him to drop the bravado and all the nonsense that she's probably dealt with all of her life with men, because she's quite a manly woman, even though she's beautiful.
Mm.
But you know what? In the scene, and I even wrote this down here, in the scene where they're driving, the opening, going to the mission scene where they're in the van together and they're listening to the rock music and whatever else, and she doesn't want to get herself involved in any kind of entertainment or anything like that. She keeps giving subtle looks to John Cena, and the way that she speaks to him, there isn't so much anger and disdain involved in the way she speaks to him. but there is also this layer of, I can't believe that I think about, shagging you at night. like almost like she's ashamed of her own thinking, but she's not letting anybody else. We haven't seen her thinking like that. We haven't been given that vibe, but there's almost this look in her eyes. Maybe I'm looking too much into it, but there's almost this look in her eyes where she's looking at John Cena's character as in, that just when I was starting to think that you were actually all right, you've just shown me there why I would not touch you with a barge pole.
Yeah.
And you gotta think though too with her is like you've seen their progression between episode 1 where he's just trying to pretty much bang her because he was in prison in a hospital to, in episode 3 you saw like a kind of kind moment when he's sharing his drink with her to even episode 4. Something I forgot to reference that I don't think we talked about was that he went up to her at the bar in episode 4 and asked her point blank, "What's in my file?" I didn't read your file. She goes, "Well, what's in my file?" He goes, "That you killed your brother and you did some fucked up shit and your dad's fucked up."
Yeah.
And when he hears that, it's like it just startles. It seemed like you see that, and he just looks at her and said, "By the way, you look nice in that dress, by the way," or whatever he said, or that outfit or something. Or you have a nice rack in that outfit. But, and then you
Totally platonic. I just want to tell you that your rack looks nice in that outfit there. Like, it was a nice comment from John Cena, and it was the kind of, assholery comment that somebody like the Peacemaker would make. But you're totally right, Holiday. Like, and once again, I'm going to use the word, there's layers here. There are deep, deep layers involved in these two characters. But continue, Holiday.
And like I said, with episode 5, you see after their battle, she's the one who's taking a picture of all of them. And then you see these moments. So, they're few and far in between. You see these little moments that, she's starting to lighten up to him a little bit and seeing there's more to him just as pretty much this good looking guy that's just an asshole to everybody who it just got some fucked up ways of thinking. You're starting to see more layers of people. And especially, like I said, towards the end, you see Amanda Waller's daughter, he left his helmet there and he puts on the helmet and does the x-ray vision. That's when the big reveal that Murr is a butterfly and she gets scared and he starts going after her and she goes outside and she falls on the ground. It's raining. He looks at her and, and all of a sudden the episode ends just like that. You're like, oh shit, is he about to kill her? What the hell's going on? I gotta know what's happening next week now because he might kill that fucker. What the hell's going on? That's what and it just ends in that shocking moment of, oh shit, now she knows. Now what's going to happen?
Yeah, that was an excellent ending. One character, and we've not touched upon this guy, and he plays a very big part in later episodes, is the character named Kaspar Locke, who's like the police captain, the one who's always undermining the Chinese chick's authority and the detective Song. What's your thoughts on Kaspar Locke? Clearly he's not, normal. What do you guys think of this character who appears?
They using Murr's using him because he wants to make sure, because you also got to think in this episode too, at the same time he's trying his dad's trying to talk to the police officers about, well, it wasn't me, go check the fucking fingerprints and everything like that. And and then Murr makes a phone call to him to go in there and make sure he quiets everything down. And they still kept his dad in prison because he's saying, nope, the fingerprints match. And they're arguing with the detective. Well, are you a forensic examiner? Do you know how to read these fingerprints? Do you know how to do all this stuff? And I like that kind of too at the end, though, too. You see her going to a judge's house that owes her a favor and stuff to get a warrant to go search Peacemaker's place and everything like that, because they know by looking at the fingerprints and they know by talking to the two witnesses you saw in the first couple episodes that they obviously lied and that it was Peacemaker the whole time that did the events in the first 2 episodes, not his father. That was, they switched out and they tried to say he did it. And, and like I said, a lot of stuff that we didn't touch about too, I just thought about in episode 4, so I'm trying not to bleed these episodes together, was that, when Peacemaker finds, no, I think it might have been this episode when Peacemaker confronts John about it, and that's what started their big argument, was that, you could have had anybody. He started naming off all kinds of different actors and actresses. You could have framed all them, but you framed my dad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was quite funny. Rex, what did you thought of that scene?
Now, let me speak about the Casper Lock guy first, because I have
Yeah,
to say something, because it's been burning in my brain.
yeah. He's not been touched upon much here.
Yeah, like, if you know, does anyone know of the phrase, and forgive me if I get the name wrong, is it Michael Eisner effect? The guys who are normally cast as bad guys in films and television.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This guy, the actor that plays this guy, every program that I have ever seen this actor in, he always plays the same untrustworthy European, like Scandinavian character that you cannot trust. Yeah, or European, because he's German in one program. He also was in Hell on Wheels. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I know it's nothing to do with this character, but every time I've ever seen this character, he always plays a slimy, untrustworthy guy, but also comes across as a guy that's helping out, if you know what I mean. So I knew immediately, this guy, oh, here's this guy. He's going to turn out to be either a snake or somebody on the inside or something like that. The character's interesting, and the way that the character was behaving was interesting, but unfortunately, I couldn't get over the opposite of what I did with the John Cena thing. I could not get over the character casting. He, to me, screams untrustworthy actor, untrustworthy person who plays actor who plays certain characters in films and programs. I just couldn't get that out of my mind. So I knew, regardless of the like small bits that we've seen him in this, I just knew that he's going to turn out to be a snake or some kind of untrustworthy guy.
funny thing about him, and I didn't realize this until I actually had a proper look at his face. He actually appeared in a couple of episodes of Smallville in season 7. He played Clark's Kryptonian uncle, Zor-El. Obviously, he was a little bit younger, but I recognized him. Just the hairstyle was different. Does any of you guys recognize him from Smallville? I mean, I know it's been a long time, but does
I
anyone
mean,
recognize that actor?
now that you say that, I do. Now I can think about it because I didn't recognize him at first until you referenced it.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, no, I have not seen Smallville after season 5. Do not send me comments in the comment section below. Please do not think Smallville was one of those series which, and I honestly still think that Smallville is probably still the best out of them all. So do not destroy me. From the first 5 series of Smallville that I've seen, Smallville is probably the best DC adapted program, probably until Peacemaker came out, because Smallville was just great. The first 3 series were absolutely incredible, but I didn't see. I haven't. I will see season 5, the rest of season 5, 6, and 7,
And 8 and 9
in
and
due
10.
time, and the rest of the series. I'm sure I will.
Yeah.
But And I'm sure if I'd have seen it, I would have known. It would have just added to my suspicion of this guy not being a trustworthy character. I am almost certain that he would have played somebody who would have turned out to have probably been helpful at first, and then maybe had alternative motives behind the scenes of what he was being portrayed at first in the program. And I don't mean the real life actor. I mean the actual character the character this actor seems to ever play is always a, let's just say, useful, but clearly suspicious and dodgy character.
Absolutely.
And I think he may have been also in one of the other DC series as well. It was either that or he was in something else, but he was definitely in Hell on Wheels. And then I see something else, and he practically played the same character. And I was like, yeah, I made my decision then, and it was confirmed by seeing him in this program as well. I do not like this actor. Not because he's a bad actor.
It's
It's
just
not
something
because
about him.
of the character role. He seems to be, like I said at the start, the Michael Eisner effect,
Yeah.
where certain guys are always seem to play bad guys in films and television, so you just can't see him any other way.
Yeah, I see what you mean. He's got that face, hasn't he?
It would be like Triple H turning up in a 2010 movie trying to play a good guy.
It just doesn't fly.
Just
And another thing as well, the way he looks and his hairstyle. If he used to put some makeup and spray his hair green, I'm not joking, he would look like the Joker from like 1943.
To be truthful, he looks like a pretty decent guy. Now you've mentioned that, he actually could have been in Gotham as well.
Yeah, he would have made a good Joker. Just the way he looks. If you coloured his face and hair, he would have pulled off a good Joker. Speaking of dodgy, there is a scene here which we are going to talk about right now. Is Amanda Waller's daughter, Adebayo, plants a diary in Peacemaker's home as ordered by Waller. Now, this diary is going to play a big part in the rest of the show. So, Holiday, what was your thoughts on this scene in particular where we see Amanda Waller's daughter with this diary?
It's just she's remember Amanda Waller put her in there, told her about episode 1, put her in there that team, wanted her on that team for specific reasons, and you're starting to see where now she's putting a diary in his home, and not we're not sure why she's doing that, but there's also somehow some alternative motive. Because we gotta think though too, no matter what, who's in charge of this team, Amanda Waller supervising, watching every single thing, knows every single thing that's got to be going on, which kind of amazes me. If I want to spin my disbelief, how she doesn't realize that Murr is a butterfly.
Rexty Boss, what did you thought of that scene?
I mean, I agree with everything that Holiday is saying there. It's a bit. I don't want to go super negative right now, but I feel like there are certain, and I said this in the previous review, there are certain very convenient plots, whole covers, if you know what I mean. There are times when you feel like they could probably write this in a different way, but things just seem to jump out very quickly. I don't know if it's because obviously we've only got the eight episodes and they wanted to get through, but it felt like this scene felt a little bit anticlimactic, if I'm honest. And I'm not going to go on any further because I don't want to go into a negative spiel about it.
No, I see what you mean. Would you say that whole scene, and in regards to Holiday's comments, would you say that this scene was kind of like a bit left field? It just felt like a bit random.
It was definitely rushed, and it didn't necessarily have the same pacing as some of the other scenes that we've seen. I feel like this might have been a post-production scene, if you know what I mean. Like they maybe went back and added this in after.
Yeah,
this was filmed before they made changes and it was left in. I don't know. It's hard to explain it in this way. It wasn't a bad scene. It just doesn't fit. It just didn't fit the rest of the pacing of the whole series, to be honest.
I felt like this scene, to segue into what you're saying, I felt this scene felt more like early episode sort of syndrome. Like this is something that could have happened maybe like in episode 2. You know, like when you just meet her for the first time. This is like something she could have done like at the end of episode 2. Like this is something that could have happened very early on. And you know, like you said, it just doesn't feel like it belonged there. It just felt like something they just added in after.
Maybe it's because her character isn't necessarily supposed to be here.
Yes.
So I don't know. I don't know. You're right. Maybe this was taken out. And my first thought actually was potentially was this filmed earlier or later in the
It
series.
did feel like it.
But I also feel like this was part. Yeah, like this was part of what they took out of the pilot. And then they thought, oh well, we've got this scene here. This kind of makes a little bit of sense in the context, but if we change certain things, but it just didn't work. Like this scene could have been 2 episodes ago. You're right. This should have probably been at the end of somewhere at the end of episode 2, start of episode 3.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think, Holiday? I mean, you know, this scene, do you think it felt a bit random?
I don't know if it felt random, just because it's one of those things. We know it's the first episode. Amanda Waller's daughter's there for a specific reason, and then we start finding. And when we see that, we know it's something diabolical. It's something that Amanda Waller has asked her to do, and then we're trying to figure out why she's doing this and what's this journal detail. What is it gonna give? What information is it going to be giving about everything? And then. I mean,
they was using this just to keep Amanda Waller as part of this because
I got that impression.
Until we got the reveal that he was a butterfly, didn't seem to really have much purpose if Amanda Waller was in charge. But now, over the last 3 episodes, they've sort of phased Amanda Waller's character out of this series
very quietly.
You know, Myrn and all that, the more authority in this. But in this episode, it's almost like they used that diary just so that we were reminded that Amanda Waller's in control and in charge of this situation. Where personally, I think, like I said, I just think that this scene, like up until this episode, her character, it's almost like everything that her character's involved in is either detrimental to the team and stupidly detrimental to the team, or it goes against what any trained agent would do.
Not just that, this scene with the diary, it just felt like they just gave this scene to her for something to do, you know?
Yeah.
That's what it felt like.
It actually made me really dislike her character as well when I seen that she went through with it. I thought this was going to be her scene that she just said, no, Mom, I'm not doing that. It's not right. I know this guy now. And, you know, whether she thinks that later down the line or not, and I think, you know, I don't want to give any spoilers, but I think that you can tell by Hardcore's reaction when she finds out about the diary, and which actually happens in a later episode, but I don't care. Like, when, you know, her reaction goes to show that even she is disgusted in that type of behavior. And I really thought they had an opportunity here to have, you know, Amanda Waller's daughter just say, no, I'm not doing that. It's not right. It's going to actually cause problems here for us. You're not in the field. You're not doing this. And I thought it was going to be a way of her standing up to her mom.
Yeah, I thought that's where it was heading, but it clearly didn't.
I mean, I'd also throw in there as well, because I need to go back to this because it was eating me alive and I had to go and check. This guy, this cop, this
Casper Lock.
the actor that played him has been in 4 different DC television shows. 4. Not 1, guys, not 2, not 3, but 4. He has been in Smallville,
yes,
as Warhawk said. I was right. He was in Gotham. I was also saying before that I think that he may have been in a different show. He was in the Arrow, and now he's been in the Peacemaker.
He was in Arrow.
He was Damien Dogg's assistant in Arrow for 1 episode. And this is maybe around the time when obviously I started to fall out of love with Arrow. So this would explain why when characters like him may have turned up, I was just like, no. And you know what I mean? Because obviously, like I say, he is a go-away heat character or actor for me. Just the type of, you just know that whatever he is involved in, the character is not going to be a positively portrayed character.
X-Pac heat.
Yeah.
It's the X-Pac go away heat.
Also, because I think it's in this episode, isn't it, where the scene happens where John Cena we spoke about this in one of the other reviews, but obviously we were all over the place there. In this episode, John Cena tries to bond with Amanda Waller's daughter before she snakes him out and delivers the diary. She has the drink with him, and he makes her that disgusting drink made of like from moth and whatever else it is, like the whole disgusting.
See, now drink. That's where that scene, what we all just talked about, the planting the diary, after meeting, having a drink, and the little bonding. That's when I think it should have happened. Episode 2, at least.
Yeah, no, but listen, that the drink thing, when they do it, it happens in this episode. It happens in this episode, where her and John Cena, after because obviously he kills John the tech guy, kills the gorilla, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
And then they're all covered in blood later in like John Cena is literally covered in blood, isn't he, from his fight with the gorilla? And then later in the episode, him and Amanda Waller's daughter, that's where they're in the trailer, and he makes her that. I'm sure that's in this episode, isn't it? Isn't that in episode 5, or have I got that wrong?
No, I think you're right. Actually,
it actually happened in episode 5. Yeah, and
towards
the end, it literally is the direct scene that happens between these two before she goes and snakes him out. This is why I said to you, it makes her look. And I want to go immediately to Holiday. It made her, for me, look like she was a snake and she just could not be trusted. And she was just an unlikable character for me from that moment going forward.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I can see your point, though, too, because all of a sudden now, and she has alternative motives. She's trying to get close to Peacemaker, and now all of a sudden she's doing something to betray him.
Absolutely.
she's making crazy decisions. She's also in this episode. We also get more development between her and her girlfriend, obviously, at the start of the episode, where she basically just brushes her girlfriend off. She's basically sacrificing all of her personal life to be under control of her mum, who clearly her mum has used her life and her choices as a lesbian, etc., against her to control her, etc., and her losing her job, all that against her. But she sacrificed her relationship to do all these weird things. It's almost like we're getting the sense that this girl doesn't have any brain. She can't think for herself. Everything that she does is some robotically programmed thing set by her mum.
Absolutely, I agree. You can clearly tell that she just doesn't have a mind of her own. She goes, okay, I'll do that.
It's weird to see that Amanda Waller, the idea that she got for the Suicide Squad clearly came from her own parenting skills.
Oh yeah, clearly. Definitely.
She's obviously sat there annoyed with her own daughter at one stage in her daughter's life. And obviously we don't get this in the program, but I'm just giving this some synopsis. At some point, Amanda Waller's character must have sat there and thought, how do I get this girl to just listen to what I want? I'm going to have to take things from her to manipulate her to do what I want. And then later down the line, the same woman was obviously in her job and being questioned at Argos. How do we do these missions that basically involve people that are expendable how do we find expendable people? So she's put these two theories together, and that's where the Suicide Squad came up with. And I don't know if anybody else has looked at it like that from that perspective, but I certainly did. The way that her daughter is controlled by her is the same as how she controls everyone. The people who works with her, people who work for her, etc.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Would you agree with that, Holiday?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that comparison at this point, because like I said, when you watch this, you're like, yep, you can definitely tell something's going on.
We knew that the Amanda Waller from the Arrowverse was a bitch, yeah? But she was way fitter than this Amanda Waller, so she was way more aesthetically pleasing, and they did that deliberately because they knew they weren't going to make her. They were going to make her the hard, tough decisions girl who did stuff to make Oliver do whatever. But it was also they didn't want their fan base to absolutely hate her for forcing Oliver into certain things that he might not have wanted to do. Whereas in the cinematic universe, they made sure they got a hard-faced bitch to play Amanda Waller, who just does crazy stuff. And obviously what we've seen over the years and leading up into this series is that she has to make the tough decisions, but she also makes psychotic decisions that cost the lives of people who still are human beings, etc. Or not all of them are human beings, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I agree. So as we get towards the end of this episode, we see Adebayo uses Peacemaker's X-ray helmet, and then that's where we get the official confirmation that Myrn is indeed a butterfly. And as Holiday and Rex pointed out, that Myrn chases after her into the rain, and she trips over, as you do.
Something that's not very much explained is how do they get alerted that somebody has figured out who they are? Because it happens twice in this episode with the butterflies when they're in that warehouse in the episode at the start before they kill the gorilla and all that, and then also at the end with the Amanda Waller's daughter. It's almost like as soon as somebody sees the creature, it's alerted that somebody. But then that, to me, that it's a bit far-fetched as well. That is like this. Surely then the creature would have been alerted way before, like Myrn would have been alerted 5 minutes before she walked in the room. So imagine, like, whereas we know that is a thingy, and we're thinking, oh yeah, she's going to use the X-ray vision to see it. All of a sudden, Myrn, like, without her seeing him, says, "What are you doing with that stupid thing there?" Or he's on the phone and he does something to distract her so that she doesn't look at him because he knows that she's about to see what it is, and he makes sure. Surely there'd be more to this if they have some kind of sixth sense for working out when they've been figured out. Surely they will be able to prevent ever getting figured out. And especially what you learn later in the series, if it's been if they've been here for a certain amount of time, surely they would have more defenses against anybody being able to see them.
That's a good point, actually. I never thought of that. Holiday, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, Mur could, like I said, I don't know at the story where, I mean, Mur could have realized that she had an X-ray helmet and prevented her from finding out, but I think at some point you would have to have somebody find out to continue the story, because I think it would only make sense. You have this reveal in episode 4 that he's a butterfly, so why not episode 5 have somebody figure out that he is a butterfly?
Yeah, I suppose it may have been a situation where, because of the amount of episodes that they've got to get through, it could have been a situation simply where they thought, even though some people must have had the same thought as me, as in, why do they only figure out that they've been caught when they've been caught? Surely these creatures would be a little bit more, of trying to avoid, as in, like, she's seen Mur in the office when she's walking towards the building, but then as soon as she looks up to see where Mern is, Mern's then not in the room.
Yeah,
That would have made
I
a bit more
agree.
sense. And then maybe possibly she then later, or at the start of the next episode, she then figures out something's not right with this guy, he's acting strange or whatever. Them kind of things. There could have been a bit more of a build-up to him being revealed. But like Holiday said, maybe they just wanted to get it out there because they damn well knew that in the next episode, for those people who were going to go on to the next episode, and I can't see why anyone wouldn't have, they knew that people were going to get to see the progression and think, oh yeah, that makes sense. But then, like I said, there was also the thing that happened in the warehouse as well, where the helpers, or the butterfly helpers, learned quickly that there was people in there that were a danger to them that shouldn't have been there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with both of you guys. Yeah, it just didn't really make a lot of sense.
There are multiple examples in this series that the humans can stand right next to the butterflies, and the butterflies don't know that they're humans.
Yeah.
But in this convenient situation, all of a sudden, even more than what I said, it would have made sense if she would have figured out that Mern was a butterfly without Mern learning that she figured out. So it was for her to then deal with, like, give her an actual dilemma to deal with. But then having said that, maybe they just did this because they wanted you to quickly forget what she'd just done with the diary.
That could probably be a strong possibility. That could be a very strong possibility why they did that.
Only time will tell, because this was the first time. I'm not going to say it was bad, but it was the first time that just that last, and I think it's because it turned into a bit of a real, like, dark, it turned quite dark and scary at the end. Yeah,
it did.
I think because it took a different direction at the end. It was the bit that it looked like that last 10 minutes of the episode, or 7 minutes, it felt like that should have potentially been the first 5 minutes of the first episode. So we got to see what we're dealing with.
Yeah, you would definitely think that, wouldn't you?
Think the left field thing, a lot of that last 5 minutes of the episode felt very left field.
A little bit. Wouldn't you say, Holiday?
Yeah, I mean, I could see everybody's point, but I mean, at the same time, too, it's one of those, they got to progress this. To me, they got to progress the story somehow. Like I said, I mean, I think they're doing a good job progressing the story. And then, like I said, episode 6, when we get into that, it's like it dives more into everything once you, like I said, but this is still like one of those very dark, towards the end, one of the very darker scenes in the whole series when this moment happened, because you have no idea. Sort of like, it kind of always reminds me of the series finale of The Sopranos, where somebody walks in and then it just goes to black, and that's how it ends.
Yeah.
Where this, you see the moment and then it just goes to black, and that's how it ends.
It was a good ending, as Rex said. That was a very good way to hook you in and make you want to see the next episode to find out what happens. So yeah, even though it was a little bit left field, I think it is still a decent ending.
I'm just talking subjectively, you know what I mean? I'm just talking subjectively, that when I look back on the episode, that's what that makes me feel like. Whereas at the time when I watched that scene develop, I didn't feel like that at all. I felt like, oh my word, I'm going to watch the next episode immediately.
Yeah, of course.
When I look back on it as a second time around or third time around, so when I watched it the other day, I have to say that it did make me stand there and kind of say, hold on, that last 5 minutes of the episode, is a bit weird. It either should have happened earlier in the series when people didn't have the connection that they have, or it should have been potentially, and even looking at it from this even one more angle, maybe she should have found out who Myrn was before we as the audience, like before we got that should have been the reveal that Myrn was the thing, and she should have then had that dilemma, because it would have given her character more layers leading up to the diary thing, because that's the problem with the diary thing. She went quickly from the diary, which made her look absolute, just like scum. And then immediately into this, oh my word, she's in danger. Was we supposed to feel sorry for her? Because it was a scary scene, but I didn't leave that scene thinking, I just thought she was dead. I thought, that's it. She's dead now. That's it. And she deserves it because of what she'd just done with the diary. And I don't know if anybody else looked at it like that, but I did. I looked at it immediately like, oh, she's dead, because of obviously he got hold of her. Yeah. And then I thought, well, she shouldn't have done what she did to John Cena before. But then at least then they've cut all loose ends. Amanda Waller's cut all loose ends. No one will know and suspect her because she's now being killed. That's what I thought.
Yeah, same here. That's what I thought too. So that's going to be it from us. We are going to wrap this up now. What was your thoughts on episode 5? Did you enjoy it? What was your thoughts on Adebayo planting the diary in Peacemaker's home? What do you think is in that diary, and what do you think the repercussions could be? And also, what was your thoughts on the way she found out that Myrn is a butterfly? Do you think there was something to it? Do you think maybe it could have been done a different way, or were you satisfied with the way it was executed? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and we will see all of you next time for another edition of the Peacemaker Season 1 review series, where we are going to be talking about episode 6. So make sure you don't miss that. So until next time, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening. And Rex the Boss and Holiday, always a pleasure having you two both here.
9 out of 10. I've got to take a point away because of the end.
Yeah.
Happy to be off. Shout out to Holiday.
No, I would go with 9 out of 10 as well, just because of how it went from one moment to a completely dark moment towards the end.
Yeah, I agree with you both. Definitely 9 out of 10 for this one. So we will see all of you next time for episode 6. Bye for now.